one and the one that I think I had put up.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start this special meeting. Let us please stand for the invocation. Heavenly Father, thank you for a day that you have given us, oh Lord. Oh Lord, we ask you to cover this parish and cover all our constituents, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Father, bless the ones in Hawaii, oh Father, that having terrible times right now, oh Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Please follow me to pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if there's any additions and deletions to the committee workshop? Being none, any guests and public comments for this workshop? If none, we're gonna roll on to the agenda item. Yes, sir.
I know this is a workshop, so we operate a little bit differently in a workshop than we do a regular meeting, but will the public be able to speak during the meeting?
No doubt, yes,
Okay.
sir. That's what we want. Discuss road use permit. And we're gonna open up the floor on that. I know everybody have a copy of it. The road, use ordinance. So I would like, from any of our guests, our business owners, we would like to know what y'all opinions are on this. I don't know if have you read it or not, but we most certainly want y'all feedback on this. If there's anyone. The fees are, it said 1 to 2 trucks, trips, 10-day period. You contact the road department. 3 to 149 truck trips per year, $100. 150 to 999 truck trips per year is $250. And 1,000 or more truck trips per year is $500. Can we get any kind of feedback on,
What was the first part?
1 to 2 truck trips? It's a 10-day permit.
Well, on your online permit, that's not an option.
It's not?
0 to 149 is the first option we received.
No, no,
Yes,
this is a
sir, that's,
modification.
this modification here, what we're trying to modify it to. But we still wanna kinda get some discussion on it. It's not approved yet, so to speak. You had something to say, Mr. Michael?
No, I was going to point that out, that this,
Right.
what y'all are discussing tonight is the proposed changes. That's,
Right.
Could we have copies of that, please?
Yes. You can have mine. Yes, sir.
Yes, it was.
I have one extra too. You want me to give it out, or you can give it
Uh,
you give it out.
Yeah.
Bring some more.
I think I have two.
Yeah, I had two too. I think you got,
We don't have the old. We don't have the old. Yeah,
No,
those-
the old one was up to 10 truck trips.
Okay.
this
This
is
the new
the one
one.
that's currently in effect.
Okay, this the current one.
The one that we're proposing the changes
Is
in
it
here.
here? Okay.
It's Ordinance 6, and you look in here, there's Ordinance 6.
Okay. That's the last page in there.
So feel free to speak if anyone wanna chop in on it. Feel free. It also is posted on the screen there. Another part here I'm looking for also.
Is that per job? It's not per truck, right?
I take it's for a truck.
I have a truck, I'm going to your house, and I'm going to his house, and I'm going to his house.
Imagine when they contact the
As long
road,
as,
when they contact the road department, what's the road department gonna tell them?
Well, they don't wanna allow the permits to give it out.
Okay. So 1 to 2 trips per day, they have to go to the road department to get a
Permit, but it won't
Permit
be
for
no
that
fun-
particular
won't be no
day.
charge.
Okay.
I have,
So
I
the
have a
road,
question.
so they'll know, so they can go inspect the road and all that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are there any haulers in the audience tonight? Any contractors?
Yes, it is.
Do any of you operate overloads, oversized loads, or overweight loads? Or are most of you within the weight? Are you overweight?
At least 85 to 90,000 pounds. I mean, that's overweight,
It's,
Yeah. Because
overweight.
am I wrong, or is these are just permits that someone would need to carry something overweight?
no, sir.
No,
No, sir. No, sir.
they have a permit.
So
Come forward, please, if you want.
if they're within the weight limits, they still have to purchase a permit.
Yes.
If they're within the weight limits set in the ordinance that y'all have had, that are DOTD standards. And it's essentially, the weight permit is any vehicle that's over 18,000 pounds per axle, a greater of 18,000 pounds per axle, or 58,000 gross weight. If they operate over that, they have to have a permit.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
If
sir.
it's over our.
But that's not an overweight.
Okay, so
Overweight would be, I
anything
think,
over
an
58,000 pounds.
Yes, sir. The
what
greater
we-
of 18,000 pounds per axle or 58,000 pounds total gross weight.
Sit down, sir.
So
Microphone.
anyone that's not carrying over this amount would not require a permit, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ross.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tyler Rambin with Rambin Construction, and that's my question. We have bobtails
Right.
that are
Yeah, I saw that.
loaded out, all we can legally haul is 52,000. But yet, we have been under the impression that we have to have road permits and have gotten tickets, and so if I'm reading this correctly, and
It's
what you
58.
said, so we shouldn't have to have permits.
No.
Just a second, if you're running a two-axle vehicle,
Yes.
then it's 36,000 pounds. If it's over, it's the greater of a single axle of 18,000 pounds per axle. So if you have a two-axle vehicle, that, as I understand, as I appreciate it, it's the weighted axle. In other words, dump trucks have two weighted axles on them. So a dump truck in excess of 36,000 pounds would be required to obtain a road use permit. It's the greater of 18,000 per axle or 58,000 pounds per axle, because you have three vehicles, some trucks that have three axles on them. So those would be in excess of 54,000. So these are DOTD standards that we've had in place for the past 15 years. That hasn't changed. None of that language has changed in this.
Okay, well, that's what I just need clarification on that.
Right.
Is there anyone else?
So the 1, 2, you said at the beginning, if it's 2 trucks or less, you get a 10-day permit. You have to pay for that permit?
Trips?
Trips?
No.
No.
No, the 10-day permit is a permit. You contact the road department. You will talk to, more than likely, one of the ladies who will get you in contact with our permit officer foreman. And because it's a permitted route, you're required to permit your route, because there are some roads that you cannot be on that just will not support the weight of those trucks. But there are some roads that you can be on. Those are our through roads, essentially. That's what it is. We give you a permitted route, and the permit officer will do that. And if you're only gonna make 2 truck trips because you're hauling a couple loads of dirt, a 10-day permit will be sufficient, and they can issue that. It's a 10-day permit. It's not an annual permit, because the reality is you're probably gonna haul a lot more than two loads of dirt in a year. So if you're gonna do an annual permit, you're gonna need to talk to them. And those are pretty much, if you're building homes, like home builders, if you have a general contractor who's building a subdivision, it's best that they probably obtain some sort of annual light permit.
Right.
either $100 or $250, depending on how many homes they're gonna build in that neighborhood.
And all the
And
contractors
they
need to be
pass that
listed.
out to their contractors. That has not changed in this ordinance. Okay, that's stayed the same. The only thing that's changed is we did from 1 to 9 trips. We changed that because 80% of the calls we were getting over there, where everyone says they're only hauling 9 trips in a year. So there's no way for us to verify that. I mean, if you're hauling a few trips, just get a 10-day permit. You can always call back and get another 10-day permit. So,
At no cost.
at no cost, correct.
That makes sense. Like if a homeowner calls and wants a load of sand for their pool in their backyard,
10-day permit,
10-day permit.
10-day permit.
Which
at
is
no
free.
cost.
I understand we had to pay $100, and that's what's on the paper right there, because that's,
Well, that's what's in the ordinance right now. This was what we proposed last month, and the jury wanted to workshop this and have some of y'all come in and make comments. So,
that makes sense.
So we get a permit for two truckloads to one resident, and the permit's in our name, and there's a damage to the road, we're liable for that too?
if you damage the road, if your truck,
Just gonna say if we damage the road.
if you damage,
Does it get inspected first?
yes, our permit officers are supposed to go and visually inspect that and film, and they're supposed to be filming those roads before that permit is issued. But that can happen within a day. That's a pretty quick process. I mean, that's what Calvin does. He's our permit office foreman. He does that quite a bit.
We are responsible for the damage, the parish roads.
Well, yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, if you damaged it, it's your responsibility to fix it.
Going to assess the structural capability of the road before we travel it to truly determine. How is that gonna work? Is that
Well, our roads are built to a certain specification already. Now, some of them are deplorable, admittedly. And that's why we film the road. If there's visual damage on the road before you get your permit and the same visual damage afterwards, then I think we'd be hard pressed to hold you accountable for that damage.
I called and got a permit for Screamerville Road about, earlier this year. No one went and inspected it. I got the permit, hauled 12 loads. Nobody went and inspected it. They gave me the permit number, and Screamerville Road is oil and dirt. Early spring, a lot of rain. I recorded it myself of all the holes in it, and it was worse when I left. And then we got our machine, went back out there and scratched it out, and it was better than it was when we left. Didn't have to do that, but that was before y'all changed the ordinance. So in today's time, y'all would send me even though nobody looked at it, I got the permit. They drive out there, there's a wedding venue at the end of that road that gets traveled quite often. So, I mean, how does it, just because I'm the only one that has the permit on that road, I would be responsible for 100% of the repair of that road, even
Well-
though it's getting used by a business at the end of it?
Well, you say nobody's inspected it. How do you know? Were you on that road?
Talk to Calvin.
Okay, so Calvin told you nobody inspected it. Well, then that's on our road department. If they don't inspect it, then that's on us. But they're supposed to inspect it by doing a visual inspection, recording that route. Now, if Calvin already recorded it under another permit, I'm not speaking to that issue. I could understand why he may not have recorded it twice in one day, or twice in 1 week.
Right.
But that's, again, I'm,
theoretically he needs to? There's been more than one trucking company on it. Prior to the previous, they haul their load, and he says they didn't have, then whoever's the last truck that hauls on it's gonna catch all the damage.
Right.
or a combination of all of them who run it on the road at the same time.
They just built a well location in Stonewall, Tommy Williamson's place, that was a big job. So, obviously, I'm sure the oil field company's gonna handle that repair, but what if there was just a little small guy like me that bought a permit and I just went to somebody's house right there? So, do I get a portion of that bill, or how do y'all decide that?
Typically, whenever there's multiple companies pulling permits on a road, it's allocated and it's split between all those companies. That's how we've assessed it in the past.
Y'all gonna keep up with the loads that went down that road, or y'all gonna set an officer on it and down every truck?
We have 4 permit
Allocate the loads properly, the damage properly.
Could someone silence their cell phone for us, please? Thank you. I'm sorry, repeat your question?
If I haul 20 loads on it, Mark hauls 10 loads on it, Adam hauls 30 loads on it, Mr. Travis Ray, you know, who's gonna sit there to monitor how many loads each trucking company hauls to allocate the penalties properly, evenly, appropriately?
Well, I think logistically it would be impossible for the jury to hire enough people to sit on every single road to make that. We base a lot, these permits are an honor system. We honor you calling us and saying, hey, we're gonna haul 20 loads. If you haul 50, I mean, how are we supposed to assess that? I mean, Steve, you have a comment?
Historically, what we did was we gathered, say, the gas companies that had a permit during a period of time. Say there was 4 of them. All 4 of them know who was the guy running most trucks. So we point to the guy with most trucks and say, you get what you can out of the other 3 because this is how much money we're looking for. We put it on the permit holders to do that. And it has worked year after year after year because they, to some degree, know one another's business and nobody wants to pay more than they have to pay.
But this is, my problem with this is that it is geared to the oil and gas companies, and we're getting caught up in it. That's my problem.
It's hurting the 1 to 10 load
It's
guy.
hurting the small guys in the
We don't
parish.
make millions or billions like they do. I mean, we're paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the reality of it. Loggers too. I mean, expenses went up, pay hasn't, and, you know, now we run the risk of trying to survive, and then, oh, hey, now the parish is gonna send us who knows how much of a bill to repair.
Has the parish ever sent you guys a bill?
We haven't had this
We hadn't had this ordinance yet.
Well, y'all have had this ordinance. It's just, the only thing that's changed in this ordinance is the fee itself. It's gone from a 1 to 9 trips to a 1 to 2, well, to no trips for $100. So the only change has been a $100 increase.
I've never gotten a bill to repair a road, but.
So I would ask this question, why do you expect to get a bill to repair the road now if we have never done that?
Brought to our attention.
So most of the
Right.
time, if I call Calvin and get a permit for, say, radio station road, he says, man, when you going in there, just 1 load, or you tell me what in, go in 1 load, you're doing. My name's not on no dotted line saying that you gotta send me anything. He just
But if you go down that road and you run over some signs, are you gonna pay for those signs, or how are we to know who's done that? We have to assess that damage.
a car could have been
I understand that, but the permit holds, we have information on those trucks that are going down those routes. That allows us to go after the person who is responsible for damage on those roads. Damage on the road, it can fairly not be assessed to just damage on the physical road. There's signage, there's barriers that we put up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I've seen our vehicles take out barriers. So I've seen trucks take out barriers. Those companies are responsible for those damage to those barriers. I mean, there's a lot more than just asphalt, concrete, dirt, rock, oil that's damaged. So, I mean, yes, sir.
Is this like just big trucks only? I mean, is it including like UPS trucks or, you know, like anybody delivering?
To my knowledge, we've never pulled over a UPS truck. To my knowledge, we've never pulled over a hay farmer. To my knowledge, we've never pulled over anyone hauling cattle.
Have to have the permit.
If they're hauling over the limits, they should have a permit, yes. But to my knowledge, our permit officers have never pulled over a hay farmer. They've never pulled over anybody hauling cattle. They've never pulled over a FedEx truck, a UPS truck.
But I haul to farm and ranchers, so what is that? I mean, if somebody calls for their cow pens, that's
Then-
still kind of considered farm and ranch, right?
No, you're hauling, if you're hauling in a dump truck that's weighted for those roads, it would be your responsibility to get that permit.
Why don't they pull over hay haulers and, I mean,
It's never been their practice. I can't answer that question. I started in November of 21, and I've been told they don't do it. They just don't do it.
Okay.
For the operators in the room, clearly this was written or rewritten or whatever without y'all's input, because this is the first time I've seen y'all here. So I'd like to hear what any of you would like to see us do to make this business friendly and fair for us and fair for you guys. I mean, clearly, I'm not a road specialist, and I couldn't tell you how much a dump truck weighs, but I think I do know that if you go out on a hot asphalt road in the middle of the summer and you go to cutting your wheel with a heavy load left to right, you're going to make a hole in the road. I mean, I know enough to know that. And I think that's what this is kind of geared for. I don't think you're going to do damage to most roads just going up and down it a few times with a load of dirt or a half load of dirt or whatever. But I'd like to hear from you guys what you would throw this out. What would you like to see, or what do you think is fair, or what do you think would make what you have seen or heard better?
Blanket permit out. Like a yearly, like Stonewall does or something, I mean, cause sometimes we'll call and we'll be busy trying to do jobs, and then you have to wait for a whole day to get a permit, you know, and so my operators and drivers, they'll be sitting at home. You know, I mean, we have to wait a whole day before somebody will call us to send us over a permit, you know, if you do it online.
Yeah, the online permitting, like say, you know, we make an effort to call and you plug your information in and you go so far and it just stops. You don't know whether it's been, but it does. You know, and then a day or day and a half, 2 days later, you get a call from Calvin saying, well, we see applies for the permit. You know, what can I help you with? Well, I mean, money, at that point, I mean, we can't wait a day to 2 days, you know, some of these all on, I mean, last minute and emergency situations, and try to do what you can, but you don't always have time to sit there and wait on somebody for a day or two to get you a permit. Chances are y'all may not catch us on it, but when you do, you're gonna cost us $500 because of your delinquency in the matter. I had a truck that was in a situation where he had a mechanical issue,
you need to get me a permit number, because they're gonna charge you because you live on their road. And then they call me back, Mark, that's $100. Let them hear about it. That's all I know to tell you. But I can't come down your road. And end of the story, they never call back. I lose that load of dirt. That load of dirt is my income. Right. You see what, so Stonewall, you get a blanket permit, you go, the only road I'm aware of in Stonewall is we cannot cut through Stonewall Road. Use it as a cut through and we don't, but anything else, it's business as usual. When somebody calls, says, man, I'm in a bind, and it happens. Guy from a pool company's putting in a pool, we ran out of sand, Mark, can you run us a load of sand? We've got to have it today. Stonewall, I can do that on the way, and it happens just that easy. So, yeah, we're passing the buck to the customer, and, because we don't want the liability of the repair, even if it's been in effect, we weren't aware of it. I mean, I'm sure most of us in here don't sit and read everything that's, has to do with the police jury. Like something that comes from your doctor, you need a lawyer to interpret it. But, I mean, we're just guys out here sweating, making a living. But now we're aware of it, and we're scared to get that bill. We can't afford it. Not with what we're selling material for. So yeah, we're passing it to the customer, and I don't know if any of them have bought the permit yet. None of the ones I told have. I hadn't been in their house with that load of dirt.
So if we switch to an annual, if the jury was decided to switch to an annual permit per truck, I'm assuming the jury would need to make a limit, like, I'm just pulling this out of air, 5 loads or less to any customer you're covered. But if you're going to make more than 5 trips to the same customer, or 10 trips, whatever number you want to pull, then that, to me, that would need to be coordinated with Calvin or somebody in that department so they could route you a certain way. Because there's some roads that can't withstand 25 trucks or 50 trucks, maybe even 10. And so they might want you to go a certain way to get there, and you would be covered under your annual permit fee, but they would just permit you the route to take to get there, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's something for us to consider as a jury.
But that's exactly how it's set up
That's how we
right
do
now.
now.
It's a permitted route right now.
But they have to pay a fee per time, per road.
One to 2 trips.
So if they 1 to 2 trips on that road, they have to pay the $100?
No.
Calvin, if
It's
a company calls you and says,
After.
I'm going to make 50 trips,
So
give me the $250 or $100 ticket or permit right now, and they call you back in 3 months and say, hey, I'd like to change my route, I'm going someplace else, do we allow them to do that, or do we assess them another $100?
It just depends on the road, They can get there without getting on
Different, if it's a different road. I mean, if it's a different location, does the road department assess them another $100 for a different permitted route, or can it fall under that same $100 permit that they purchased 3 months prior?
If it's a different location, no.
It would be a new permit? Okay.
Let me add.
basically they're trying to
Everybody in here, we talk to Calvin a lot. Probably everybody in here has his cell phone number. So, they used the word negligence earlier. It wasn't negligence on Calvin. I understand Calvin can't get in his truck and drive to every road in 10 minutes to inspect it. But he is a lot of help to us to tell us, help through there. So, talking about inspecting the roads, I mean, we understand Calvin can't get out there and go look. But, when I heard about all this, that was my first call was to Calvin to make sure I heard correct. For every 1 load, I'm gonna have to pay. So whether it was right or wrong, that's what Calvin understood. He's gonna be the one to write us the ticket. So, he needs to be in the know. Because when we called him, that's what I was told. I said, I wanna make sure, So we were all thinking that same way.
The way it's written right now, it's not $100 per load. If you choose to do 1 load, yeah, the interpretation is.
Not per load, if all we had to bring was 1 load in.
Right.
We didn't know it was, 2 trucks, 2 truckloads.
Currently, it is. That was what the jury passed about 3 months ago. It was $100. That's the base permit. Okay. If it was, no, the nine loads is done. It's gone. That ordinance has been repealed and it's been replaced with the one that's $100. Right. And what we propose is for, if you're doing 1 to 2 truck trips, you get a 10-day permit. And the road department can permit you that route every 10 days. I mean, if you call back in 30 days and say, hey, I got another location, I'm gonna take a couple loads over there, I need a permit for that, you're golden, you're good, you know. But the liability that comes with you getting a permit has been here for 15 years. That hasn't changed. That's been in place for 15 years that I know of. So the only language that's changed in here is the fee structure. That's the only thing, and we created a 10-day permit. So I can't speak to why it was set up that way 15 years ago, because I wasn't here. That's the way it's always been done. So I hate using that term, because to me that term implies, well, there's no room for change. Change is necessary sometimes. I have no issue with changing the road use ordinance to accommodate, but there has to be realistic expectations. If you guys are calling to get these 10-day permits and y'all are damaging the roads, who's going to fix those roads if there's not enough money? Because realistically, there's not enough money in our budget to fix almost 800 miles of roads and maintain it. You know, that's why we go for grants. That's why we go for everything else. So, I mean, I'm all on board with coming up with solutions. So far, I've provided 2 different ordinances to the jury, and that's why we're here tonight, to work through those issues. So, I'm willing to listen.
Well, the ordinance, and the truth of it is, was originally written for the oil and gas companies. Because we had the high influx when it started, and roads were just blowing up everywhere. So that's what the original ordinance was really. We couldn't say it was against the oil and gas company, but that's who we were after to fix the roads in which they were tearing up. The main reason of the permit is not to charge y'all $100, $500. It's so that y'all will get the route. That's the main thing that we're after, is for you to drive the way that we think will best stand the weight of your truck, so that y'all don't tear up the road, and so that y'all don't end up having to pay to fix the road. Y'all bring 2 loads of dirt to any residential piece of property, and the road craters, it ain't your fault. And you ain't gonna get charged for it. If they do, I'm gonna raise hell, because that's not fair. It just flat ain't fair for a truck driver hauling 2 loads of dirt to have to pay to fix a road. That's just not fair. Now, if you hauling 20 loads into a place and you tear it up, well, we might come talk to you and ask for some help. Because 20, 30 loads, 18-wheeler dump trailer hauling in dirt or rock could very possibly tear up any road that this parish maintains. Just it. But we're not after you to fix the road, really. That's not our goal for when it comes to y'all. Now, the oil and gas company, that's different. But we understand that y'all out here making a living in the parish, and hopefully you're hiring parish people to drive your trucks. But the main thing is, I see that we have a little bit of a problem responding to the request of a permit quick enough to y'all.
Yes.
I don't know really how to make that better. That's something that
Can they come?
people inside the office have got to figure out how to fix. So we need to fix that.
Definitely.
I don't have a problem with a blanket permit, but I still would like to have the right to tell you which way to go.
Oh.
Because sometimes y'all gonna go down a road you ain't never been down, and you need to know which is the best. We can probably, well, no, with your phone now, the phone will tell you how to get there. But there's some roads I know good and well, if y'all even sneak on it, the road's gonna crater. So we can give you a route to where you won't even get on some of these roads. We're better off and you're better off. So I don't have a problem with the blanket permit, just so you only pay one fee a year. But that's not the intent of the permit. The main intent of the permit is to route you. So I don't know how to be able to speed up our routing process quicker for y'all to be able to deliver your dirt, rock, whatever, in a time. If you're hauling to a house builder, to somebody that is building a house, let the contractor who's building that house pull the permit. Y'all don't pull the permit to a new construction on the house. Make the builder pull it. He can afford the $100. That's all he has to have, because $100 will cover 150 trips. I don't think he's gonna have 150 trips of all the trucks to build a house. So then y'all covered. You tell the builder to pull the permit and give you the number. And tell the builder to give you the route. And then you're covered. You're not even responsible for the road then. The builder is. So there's some of this stuff that's in this thing that I guess we need a class on or something, because there's ways to help y'all get around a lot of it to where you don't have the road damage responsibility. It belongs to somebody else. That's just like Mr. Dupree, he hauls a lot of rock to the drill site. He shouldn't have to pull a permit. Period. He should not ever have to pull a permit going into a drill site. That is the oil company's responsibility to have that pulled before that site is ever cleared. Before the first piece of timber is cut off that site, he's supposed to have his permit. And y'all can operate under that permit.
You know, and they do, you know, when I run under their permits, 90% of my work, I run under their permits, and what we have to watch is I've got, you know, 20 subs that's running under, you know, that permit for that well. I don't want y'all, we've had some issues in some other parishes, sub trucks, they won't even let us run. Red River Parish, we're fighting that fight with Red River right now. Y'all will, please don't go around.
Yeah, it's already in our ordinance that we do that already. Item D.
Say it's on these little mom and pop deals around, you know, that these guys are trying to make a living. Where it's true, when it comes out on paper, we get our paper, then, you know, everybody's up in arms and trying to do the right things. You know, we just need clarification that.
The only place I can,
Try to do the right thing, that it's available in a timely manner.
the only place I can see where a blanket permit would be beneficial to y'all is y'all, and I don't, I'm sorry, I don't know weights of all the trucks. What a truck weighs empty. Me, is when that truck weighs empty, it ain't 56 or 58,000 pounds, you don't need no permit, you can drive it anywhere you want to in this parish. If that truck is empty, as far as I'm concerned, you can drive it anywhere in this parish.
Don't mess with us no more.
It's empty. If it's empty, as far as I'm concerned, a permit officer cannot write you a ticket if that truck is empty. And if he pulls up on the site and he sees you dumping, he didn't see you loaded on the street. When you come off that lot, he can't write you a ticket. But he can sit there until the next time you come back and write you a ticket if you don't have a permit. But if that truck is empty when it touches a parish street, you don't have to have a permit.
That's what he was asking a while ago.
Is that correct?
R 18,000, R 58,000.
What I'm saying is, I don't know the weight of every truck, okay? I don't know what all empty trucks weigh. But if your empty truck weighs less than 58,000 pounds, you're legal.
You know, like a 14-yard truck weighs 52,000 for a load of rock, you know? 11, well, 11 something.
Well, if your truck doesn't weigh more what this permit says, because I'll be honest with you, we're going to scales. We're gonna put you on scales. So if you say your truck is under the weight, you're legal.
It's 18,000 per acre or 50, I mean, axle, or 18,000 per truck.
58,000.
Or 58. It's 18 or 58.
It's 18 or 58.
Yeah.
Single
Is that for a single axle, is
18 per axle.
Per axle.
Axle. Per axle.
18 per axle, up to 58,000 total pounds. Forget the number of axles. If you weigh over 58,000, you better have a permit. I don't care if you got 50 axles. You better have a permit.
I have a permit, I got a question, like I have a permit for Red Bluff to go to Jesse Latin whenever they were doing that oil well pad down there, the gas well pad. But if I have a job, like say on McCoy Lane, do I have to still go, I mean, I know, do I have to call in and pay another permit fee to go, cause I'm hauling a Traco that weighs, 80,000 plus too, I'm heavy, low boy. Go into McCoy, is that free, just to go in there, if it's one load, just to pull in there to dump it off? Dozer or whatever?
No, because you're over the 58,000 pounds.
So I gotta buy a permit for that road for McCoy? Well, I already bought a permit, I got a permit that's active for Red Bluff. But to go in McCoy, I had to buy another permit, just to, like literally
I don't know.
1
200 feet.
trip?
One trip in and one trip out.
No, that's what this new ordinance says is, no, you get the 10-day permit, 1 to 2 trips.
So if you weigh over 80,000, you have to buy a different permit?
If it's just one trip in, one trip out, you're not spending any money.
Okay.
But you do have to get the permit.
Yeah, the $100, yeah, that's fine.
You don't have to spend $100. You're making 1 to 2 trips, right? You don't have to spend $100.
Just call it in to make sure we're aware of it.
It's confusing.
Sir?
Even if you're over 58,000, you don't have to, as long
Right.
as you're not making more than
Right.
2 trips.
Okay.
Right. If you're just going to a job site to take the dozer, to sit at the house pad, and you're coming in, dropping the dozer, and then you're gonna pick the dozer back up, that don't cost you anything.
Just call it.
But if the total job is gonna be over so many loads, well then yeah, you're gonna have to pay something.
Is that right?
I wish this wasn't this confusing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Empty semi weighs 18 to 35,000.
So,
An empty 18-wheeler typically weighs 30 to 35,000 pounds. Empty.
he's legal. He can drive on empty, he can drive anywhere he wants. And the reason I'm bringing that up is for the simple reason, some of y'all live in the parish, you shouldn't have to have a permit to get home.
So there's been instances pertaining to that, we come to these, and like I say, I know there are a lot of them here to the oil and gas. We're traveling that parish road and the oil and gas company's drilling a well right here, well, 100 feet down the road, there's a sign, no truck traffic.
No through traffic.
No through traffic
Why would it be though? Why would that no through truck be there? Why would that,
It ain't gonna hold up to the truck.
not gonna hold up to the truck? Huh?
No.
That's why the sign is there.
Why
Either
is
the
that?
road
Yeah.
might be too narrow.
Narrow,
for the
yeah.
Right,
truck.
right.
That's
Yeah,
why
you
the
just,
sign.
you just have to obey the sign.
Or
Yeah,
the
it's
bridge,
not
the
there
bridge
just to
might
be up
not
there.
hold it.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
We can't travel.
You just obey the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
strictly might be just one car, barely two cars to pass. You come through there with an 18-wheeler with a low bar behind it, somebody
Yeah.
gonna have to get in the ditch.
Yeah.
That's why them signs there.
What if there is no sign? What if you're permitted to go in, loaded this way, now you're empty, can you go empty out the other way if there's no sign?
You should
No.
drive your permitted route.
Even
No
though
matter if you're empty
gotta stick
or
to your
not,
permit
if you're
route.
working that job. We wanna keep that total truck traffic off the other streets, no matter if you're loaded or not. You know, if you're running 10 trips into one place, you got to follow the route for those 10 trips.
I disagree.
I realize that it adds mileage to you sometimes. I apologize for that.
It's just frustrating that we're business, major taxpayers in the parish as everybody in here is. You know, we can't travel half the roads in this parish to conduct our business. You know, if we weigh over that 18,000 pounds per axle, and this guy needs 10 loads of dirt, you know, he's gonna end up having to haul it in the bed of his pickup, and it's gonna take him 6 months to do it. You know, and I understand that's kind of a, example, but that's really what happened.
The approved routes are,
The route, yeah, the routing, you know, we do have fault with the routing at times.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's obvious the oil field is routed around to avoid houses and traffic and that, and that's fine and dandy to an extent. Routes should we take, put us on worse roads?
When there's times there's people call, and, I mean, there's a guy sitting in here that it's happened to, if he wants to say something about it, he can, but he was permitted to go a certain way, and some people decided to call, and, because, you know, the trucks were coming in front of their house, and the police jury officer showed up and told him he had to go a whole nother way. Added a lot more time and fuel, and it is an inconvenience, but it's also part of our living, you know, because when we get loaded, the quicker you get that off, the better you come out, you know? And he just had to go around that way. Wasn't doing anything wrong, he was permitted to go down the road. That's happened to me, not too long ago, on Fire Tower Road, I had Hydroline call, wanted 9 loads of dirt. Need a permit number, Mr. Hydroline, got it for you. Went to the dirt pit on Janier, Fire Tower Road's right there by the Janier dirt pit. Called Calvin, said, wanna make sure this is a good permit number. Where you going? Going right here on Fire Tower Road. All right, well, you gotta go, and he did his job, told me the approved route, right? Janier dirt pit is on Janier Road. Fire Tower Road is maybe a baseball throw away from that dirt pit. But the approved route made me go back out Janier to 175 to Highway 5 and to cut through Bethlehem Road, all the way through Bethlehem Road, another parish road that I had to travel, loaded and empty, that I shouldn't have had to even get on because Fire Tower Road's right here. Now, I asked Calvin, I said, can I go all the way to 171 and come up Fire Tower Road that way? Just stay off of Bethlehem Road. I hate that road. It's curvy, it's narrow, there's a saltwater disposal right there, those trucks get backed up there religiously, you can't even get around them sometimes. Permit said I had to go down Bethlehem Road. I mean, there's a much easier way, but all that said, that 9 loads that I priced to do it in one day took me a day and a half. So I lost money. I didn't make as much as I should, let's put it that way. And that matters, you know, and you know, you said, you know, about the repair of the road and stuff like that. Well, I go bid a job at an individual's house, wants to build a shop pad, house pad, whatever the case may be. Well, so I'm gonna have to buy the permit, but now I'm taking a gamble, am I gonna get a call with a road repair? How much is that road repair gonna be? And when y'all call, I'm gonna have to pay it. Is it gonna be 1,000? Is it gonna be 5,000? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know till y'all decide if I have to fix the road. The oil field's not gonna cover me on that. It's not for a house builder, it's for me. How about trucking? So, how do I go price the job for $10,000 more just in case? I won't get the job. I won't get it. You know? So, I mean, there's things like Ryan said, you know, y'all don't see, you know, in the trucking world. Some of you may have been in it before, some of you not, but it's that way, you know. So, yeah.
Well, you know, there's always room for improvement for everything you do. So that's why we're here tonight, and that's another issue that we'll have to discuss on rerouting correctly.
Yes.
You know, we seen that's a problem in getting permits as a timely matter.
Why would that happen, Fred? Calvin, why would that happen? Reroute him if the permit calls for him to go on a particular road.
The reason I reroute people is because I try to keep them off the hot mix, which I could.
So do what now?
Keep them off the asphalt, hot mix.
Oh, keep him off asphalt.
Close to the state road, that way they won't be on parish road somewhere.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem, we're asphalting every little road that should not be asphalted.
Oh, man. Well, we shit.
They wanna keep you in the.
You on the other end of the, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Out of the dust and they wanna travel a good road, but, you know, we
Yeah.
don't have near the dirt roads anymore. And the ones we do have aren't maintained as well as they used to be maintained when we had dirt roads. But now we put on an inch and a half or 2 inches of asphalt on a substandard, you know, paved road, and then it blows all to pieces, and then you've got a bigger mess than you had.
Steve, you
Mr. Steve?
was gonna say something.
I'd like to play off what Mr. Baker was saying earlier about residences and things of that nature. Most of what everybody said about building a little building or hauling to some individual, maybe we should tie our building permit to a nominal amount and issue it to the developer, whether that's actually the resident or somebody else, and let them route, and then it doesn't cost them, anybody coming to that site, anything. Dirt trucks, the concrete trucks, the whatever, would all be able to get the same advantage that the gas companies get, for a very nominal fee to build whatever they want to build as a parish. Their builder can easily do that. We just need to tag it together with our building permit, that road use permit. And more economically for them.
I got a question. So
Yes, sir.
So say if an oil company bought dirt from me or Ryan or whatever, we haul the dirt and it does tear up, or say it ain't an oil company, but it's a home builder that bought 1,000 loads, and the road does tear up, I understand that we have to fix it, but how, is there like an insurance deal or, you know, something? Because a little company like that we have, we couldn't afford to fix the road, but I'm just curious.
Or if we helped y'all haul material to the road to fix it, could that happen?
We're negotiable. The question though you just brought up though, you talking about hiring several loads going to a fella building something. He should be pulling the permit,
And then let
not
them be.
you.
He's gonna be responsible for the
He's
road.
the one responsible for the road because he hired 10,000 loads of dirt
Yeah.
to come to his house.
And he's the
It's
responsible
not
party.
y'all. Y'all are working for him.
Yeah.
That's consistent with how the oil and gas companies are doing it right now. That's why the permits we issue to the pads.
All oil companies gotta have some kind of permit for all these water trucks. That's a lot of you tear up right there.
dirt to a house pad, 150 loads to a house pad. That home, I say that home builder is gonna have, he's gonna have the permit. If I tell him, hey man, we can haul out of my pit, but, you're gonna be responsible for fixing this road right here, he's gonna go find that stuff in the street.
Have to tell them that.
It's funny, but they do that.
They'll stay on the state road and all it.
They do that.
Double or triple.
I mean, it's a fine balance for us right now, making money, you know, it's keeping work, slow enough. So, but they'll do that. They'll drop you like a bad habit.
Mr. Baker, I have a question to your homeowner's situation that you described a minute ago. So for roads that we know and we've talked about, if I'm building a house on Country Place off of Baker Road, you know where I'm at?
Yeah.
On Scribby Baker's place? Say I'm building a house there and I need Adam or any of these guys to bring me, what's a typical pad? 50 loads? 50 loads. You and I've had this conversation about Baker Road. You said you knew what it was underneath that asphalt. So 50 loads is probably going to do some damage to Baker Road. Now, it's half town, half parish. I know all that stuff. But you telling me if you're building in a neighborhood, I'm going to be liable for the parish having a substandard road getting to that neighborhood? As a homeowner?
I'll make you think go somewhere else on it.
You tell your constituents that. I'm not going to tell mine that.
There's no good way to make all this work and make everybody happy.
Yeah.
When your roads won't hold 80,000 pounds.
I know, and that's my biggest concern. I don't consider myself to be very smart to begin with, but y'all
Come on,
just
Kyle.
about confused me tonight. To where I think I need to go to have a degree to figure out the road permit ordinance. That's why I don't understand why we don't simplify it to something easy. And there may be a reason why it can't do that, but if you just said every truck, every one of these trucks pays an annual $500 fee, and they can go anywhere they want to go in the parish. But if they're going to be over 10 loads to a single customer, then they need to get a permitted route from Calvin or his team. To me, Calvin and his team that we just bought scales for, I think we got all of them a set of scales, right? Then they need to be worried with, are they overweight, and are they going the right way, and do they have their permit, their annual permit, which I'm assuming would be a sticker. That'd make their job easy. It'd make the hauler's job be more efficient, because they're not having to stop to get on their phone and play around with this, that, and the other and try to get a permit. To me, it'd be easy for them. I don't know, I'm maybe speaking too much for you guys, but it'd be easy to incorporate $500 into everything you do in a year versus paying fees and calling customers and having constituents call us and try to get a permit. And I think that $500, 1,000 or more truck trips a year is a $500 fee. I mean,
Not to trying to be rude to interrupt you, but like you say, y'all may need to reconsider oil and gas people like to hear it.
no, they need to be charged more.
They need to be charged more. I mean, every one of them I know are paying a $250 fee for a road permit for a year. And they
Well, that's,
1,000 trucks plus down that road, and they're paying $250, and then here we are having to pay
well, and not to,
150 loads per road.
yes, sir, not to cut you off, but I mean, I listened to the testimony down there in Baton Rouge when we had a capital outlay request that Larry Bagley was arguing about. Actually, it wasn't a capital outlay, it was a severance tax issue.
Yeah.
And every single person on that committee said, you need to get this money, what do y'all charge for a permit fee? And truthfully, they said they didn't know. I think they eventually, by the third or fourth time, somebody had gotten an answer, and every single one of them said, well, y'all don't charge enough for those oil wells. But I mean, I just, this seems very, very I mean, it seems like we're making Calvin's job way more difficult than what it should be. And we're making the hauler's job way more difficult than it should be when it comes to us. Like I said, I may be missing something, but I don't understand why we couldn't do something simple and then just worry about what we can worry about, weights and routes. If routes are the issue, then come up with a number, come up with a threshold, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, whether it's 20. It's still going to be an honor system. And to me, if I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot of them, and I know a lot of them could prove that, or could argue that that person didn't do that damage. And most of the time they'd be right. So you're going to have a hard time pinning that damage down to one person. So.
You know, maybe Calvin could weigh our trucks empty or whatever case may be, and then have a folder on us on what our trucks weigh, you know, and, he wouldn't have to weigh us all the time. I don't know how that was gonna work.
That's the thing, when you bring scales, who's gonna keep them calibrated, who's gonna, training to use them.
Well, that's what, that's
That's
our problem.
That's what we are doing.
It's
That's
coming.
our problem, man.
Yeah.
It's coming. We passed that and budgeted money a month or two ago for them all to be calibrated annually, and
In Bossier Parish, there's no, you don't pay for road permits, but they do wait. And I kinda think it ought to be one or the other, an umbrella permit, or y'all can try to check us on weight. It's kinda like going to Lowe's, you gotta buy the merchandise, and then they start charging you to walk through the front door, you know? I think you ought to go one or the other. I don't think it's right to do both. It's kinda like double dipping.
They have a little better, you know.
Now, they will pull us over a lot. I don't like going to Bossier Parish, but I mean, we have to stay within the laws of Louisiana, you know, road and transportation anyway, so.
I also would like to know, most of these guys know their route. They know the route they're going to go when they do a job. And I heard some of them say, why couldn't they go back the shorter route if they were empty? Why couldn't we issue a permit for an in loaded and out empty if it is 15 miles shorter going one way or something? If the road is able to handle the traffic to begin with and they're underweight, they're empty, why couldn't that permit say in this direction, out another direction, empty, to help these guys?
I could answer that because a lot of times these guys don't carry the permit with them, which the ordinance requires them carry the permit with them because it has that permit route on there.
They're not abiding by the law to begin with. They don't have the permit, so they've already got charged.
Right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but if they had their permit and it said in, loaded, this direction, out, empty, another direction, which is shorter for them,
Well,
why couldn't the permit have that?
I suspect it could in theory have that, Jimmy, but the issue you're gonna have is the out route might be a no truck sign there. Or
No, I'm not talking about if it says no
or
truck.
if we haven't gotten to putting a no truck sign there, a constituent's gonna call, hey, I want a no truck route here because the truck road's too narrow. I mean, these are all hypotheticals, I understand, but, I mean, I would have no objection to something like that, but you need to put that in the ordinance.
Well, I think it needs to be added to the ordinance.
That stuff is occurring on occasion. I'm speaking for myself. There's times that we can't get an empty truck and a loaded truck down the same road, so we get routed out into a different direction on purpose to stop that traffic from having to hit the road ditch and bust the edge of the road off. So it's possible, it's been done. And it's done on purpose, it's a good thing.
Well, can Calvin and them go off of our tickets, our gravel tickets, as far as our weight and stuff, so he didn't have to weigh us? Can they go off those, or they have to weigh us even though we got a two-truck?
According to the district attorney, we need to weigh every truck that they pull over. Now, I would say if they were to pull over the same truck twice and they have and it's empty and they know what it is and they've documented that, then I don't see why they would have to weigh you again.
Let me ask you. The gentleman in the back mentioned about losing time when he go online and apply for the permit, and they say it has to wait days. Is there something on those permits that can tell when they might need that particular permit? When you might need it, what days you might need it?
Start date is the day you
You,
apply for it.
okay. So there's a, you can put that on the permit, huh?
If I call at 9 o'clock in the morning requesting a permit,
Mm.
I need it that day.
Make it that day.
I mean, there's times that, yeah, we've got notice and that we can't have 2 or 3 days to get one, but
Mhm.
certain times, I get a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning, well, y'all's permit office doesn't open until 9 o'clock,
Okay.
by the time I wait for somebody to answer the phone or either permit, and I don't get a call back for a day or day and a half, 2 days, then, my customers gonna get it on the clock.
To the office.
You know, if it's truly an emergency situation.
Office personnel, y'all want to respond to that?
We do. We don't open till 6 in the morning. If they call, we get right on to CAP, they send their permit back through their email. And we let them know that it's coming through their email, so if they don't check their email, there's no way I can tell them unless they want me to call them and say, I just emailed you your permit. Now, if they send it to us and we're not there, or they call and we're not there, it's nothing I can do.
Yeah,
If they call me, we get right on the permit. If they send it through the system, sometime I have to refresh the computer to pull it up, and I get right on it. It's,
But y'all aren't working.
we don't work
weekends
on
or
weekends.
holidays.
No, we don't work on holidays,
Permit officers
and we don't work on
weekends.
weekends, so it's
Right.
nothing we can do about that permit.
Your permit officers is out there on weekends writing tickets, so what happens, all the weekends, well, y'all's offices aren't open
Well,
that weekend, it's Monday, Friday evening at 5 o'clock.
You can't do
So
it.
like I said, it costs.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, Mr. Brown?
There used to be a time where we actually allowed them to go online or fax it with their requested route. And if they requested it at midnight on Friday night and they needed to do something on Saturday or Sunday, they had the route requested and they rolled. And we dealt with it when we came back to work. That was how we accommodated them. The other thing, Pookie, is that I not too long ago asked the gas company people how many truck trips to fully develop a pad, and it was, they wouldn't admit to anything over 10,000, but it's 10,000 truck trips plus. And what I want to point out there is 95 to 100% of your damage is caused by the oil and gas industry. We all know that. You can't charge enough for permits to get that money back. There's got to be
Right.
something else
Yeah.
done.
You can't do anything with permits anyway.
If you did nothing with everybody else, and I'm talking everybody else, was these guys and
Yeah.
logging trucks and everything else, you did nothing with them, you'd see almost no difference in the damage done. And that goes back to your, what have you done with structural numbers, calculations on your road? Somebody asked that early on. They're absolutely right. I mean, it's either gonna fall apart if it's oil dirt and rock, or it's gonna hold up a little longer if it's got a good base and asphalt. That's just the truth. So the damage is done predominantly by, it sort of goes back to that 80-20 question. Spend 80% of your time on the 20% of the people that give you your business, right, Kyle? That's the same thing. We've got to focus on where the damage is done and make it as
Right.
simple as possible for the rest of the guys. That's the truth of the matter. Good or bad.
But up to this point, I don't know of us assessing any individual dirt haulers for damages on roads. That's been consistently shared by the oil and gas companies. Now, I could be wrong. Steve may have some.
I don't know the single.
Yeah, I mean, prior administration, we just don't assess that on, I mean, it was even on the 1 to 9 truck trips, we were not assessing that. The extreme examples to assessments to occur, I'm just thinking ballparking, is if they run and they destroy some barricades that we have up or some signage or something, then that permit allows for us to assess them for repair work on those. But I don't think it's fair to point to the jury and say, hey, you're gonna do this, you're gonna make me pay for $500,000 worth of road, and I'm just pulling a a 10-day permit, I don't think that's fair to say that that's going to occur.
And to
Right.
answer, Kyle, your question about the complexity of this, yes, it was a one-year process with the attorney for the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association and Gary Evans when he was an assistant district attorney for Richard Johnson and myself. We put this together, but it went before at least 24 attorneys in Houston, Texas, representing the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association membership. Everything ended up going to Houston. That's where their headquarters are. So it had to be something that met that need. And what we historically tried to do in the beginning was sort of, all the little guys we're gonna take care of. That's where we were. We
Right.
just did it. And
But-
Woodley and Calvin, they remember those days too.
But this new change is not aimed at oil and gas. This new change is harassing these guys in the room tonight.
That's not correct.
That's not right.
no.
This new change
Harassing's
is trying to
bad
help
word,
tho-
anyway.
We're
those
trying to
guys.
help them. We're
Yeah,
giving them the
harassing's a
free
bad word.
permit
We're
for
trying
the
to give
1
the
to 2
free
ton
Changing,
truck.
changing the fees and the number of trips, that doesn't affect the oil and gas company. Correct?
New change that I proposed last month gives a free permit to the little guys. The one that we had in place prior is a $100 fee for anybody, because 80%, over 80% of the calls we get are, hey, I'm just making 9 trips. Everyone seems to be making only 9 trips, and it's an annual permit.
I got it, but if this is to making their life easier, they wouldn't be here tonight.
I think there's a
They're here to discuss it.
misunderstanding.
Right.
They did not recognize that the liability language has been in here for 15 years. That's where you're losing them. The change is, this proposed change from the present ordinance is giving free 1 to 2 trips. I'm not saying,
It's giving a 10-day permit to allow for 1 to 2 trips.
right,
There's a lot more arguments here on different things, but like, the reason a lot of the guys here tonight, because that 1 to 2 wasn't on there till I walked in the door.
Right, yeah, we've not seen that, and to be quite honest
Calvin
with
didn't
you.
know that either. I've talked to him. He said, no, it's $100 you get one permit.
the present ordinance is,
That's what it is today.
100. We were trying to change it.
That's what I'm saying, the reason a lot of us are here tonight, because that was not the case yesterday.
And we appreciate the effort, but I can dump 1 load of dirt in this room right here, spread it out, and other than the color change, you don't know it's here. 1 load of dirt doesn't hardly ever, most of our stuff is, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 loads for the average person that these people work for. Yeah.
Well, and that's all I'm saying is, I'm not, maybe my language is too strong, harassing and all those other words I'm using. I'm just saying, if I ever call Adam or anybody else in this room for a load of dirt, I'm not generally stopping at 1, because 1 won't fill up a flower bed, especially the way Adam cuts them short. But it sounds like the whole complaint, I'm just messing with you, Adam. The whole complaint tonight, it seems like the whole problem is the oil and gas companies, more so than these guys, correct? I mean, that's kind of the sentiment I've been getting over and over and over again.
Well, they give, and like I say, that's most of my work. The oil and gas companies in the past gave all of us guys a bad reputation. Kinda had to take the fallout for what happened when they walked off years ago. Southwestern's a predominant producer in this area. I work with them every day. Rock 1 tomorrow. And we've got a permit in place. everybody wants those dollars that that gas is bringing in, but they don't wanna put up with the headache of it, but there's got to be some headache in there somewhere. We can't all have pretty asphalt roads unless y'all are able to get a little more money out of them companies.
Yeah.
So I understand y'all are in a position, y'all are in a
Just that
rock and
right
hard
there,
place.
that they're gonna make money. Trips, basically, you know.
But I feel like, this thing's gonna be geared to the oil and gas, let's gear it to the oil and gas and kinda let the local people have such a hassle.
What the oil and gas doesn't do is affect the people in this parish either. Adding cost to us is gonna affect the people in this parish, Nikki. It's gonna affect the people in this parish, according to what we have to charge. And I'm not saying this in any kind of threatening way by no means, but when they ask, we tell. Because if we don't, they're gonna blame us, you know? So we're gonna tell them why. That's why we tell them, call and get the permit. You get the permit. Even though the responsibility of fixing the road has been in there for 15 years, Webster's Dictionary's been around for longer than that. No one in here's read it front to back. But we get in there and read it when we need to read it. And now we've just been made aware that we, the small guy, could be charged for repairs on the roads. Man, that scares the hell out of us. We can't afford it. So now we're aware of it. Now we're aware of it. And, so yeah, that's why we're passing the permits on to the people of, DeSoto Parish, and they're gonna call these kind of folks at the police jury office, and what happens from there, either they're gonna buy it and gripe, they're gonna gripe and not buy it, and we're gonna lose money. But, it's kinda like gun control. You have a gun shooting, the responsible gun owners have to pay the penalty instead of the guy that really did the shooting, How many oil and gas people are sitting in this room right now? Not one. You're not gonna stop oil and gas. They're worth billions of dollars. They don't care if Calvin pulls them over and writes them a $500 ticket every day. They got deep pockets, and they're gonna get that well dug, they're gonna tear that road up, and they're gonna do what they're gonna do. They're in and out, and Ryan's got a good point. You have to put up with that. When they came, there's a lot of overnight millionaires. People like that mailbox money, but then they see these little old dump trucks go down past their house to build somebody a path for a shop. Well, it was okay when their shop got built. They didn't have no problem with that then. But then we go past their house to somebody else, or even in a subdivision, all these new homes in Stonewall. Once their house is built, okay, now we're tired of all the traffic, and now we're gonna start calling and complaining. Calvin, these trucks are coming in here, and Calvin's gonna come in there because somebody complains, and will ask us nicely, can y'all go around? Might be another 4 miles, but it's still another 4 miles at $4 a gallon again and coming up. That's big to us. That's huge. So we're stressed now. I mean, that's why I've never been to a police jury meeting. Didn't even know where the building was to come to a meeting. But I'm here today. I'm here today because it matters to me that much. My wife's cooking steak right now, and it's gonna be cold when I get home. Tonight might be the last night. I can afford steak.
He's just like the homeowner. I got mine built, I don't want nobody else having to come by my house.
It is what it is. I'm sorry, but, I'm glad the gentleman over there mentioned it. I got saltwater trucks come down in front of my house. I don't call Calvin and tell him. I mean, it's bringing a lot of economy to the parish. I mean, it's a lot of people in the hotels, eating restaurants. I get how it works, but you gotta put up with that. They've torn my ditch up, pulling out on a well. I cut my grass. I love my St. Augustine, but doggone, they tear it up all the time. But I don't call the plant, get out there and fix it, because it is what it is, But all those potholes up and down Smyrna Road wasn't caused by that 14-yard dump truck I was driving in. But yet, I have to have a permit to go home in it, or used to have. Tonight's the first night I heard I could actually drive up Smyrna Road.
Anything, big job, it's over 10 loads,
Right.
20 loads, whatever we put on it.
This ordinance 6 of 2023, it was passed in May of this year.
I don't see where there's
What was,
direction.
what was the difference in this ordinance passed
I
in
can
May and the preceding ordinance?
But they're equal.
Preceding one?
In the preceding ordinance.
Had 1 to 9 truck trips was an annual permit,
So why do they have to go back the long route?
and it was free.
1 to 9
Right.
truck trips, and they can make those 1 to 9 trips anywhere?
No,
Or
it was on a
that-
per minute route, yes, sir.
And that was 1 to 9 to one site?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
One
then they
site.
could turn around and do another 1 to 9 at another site?
Right. Yeah.
That was a problem?
It was identified as most of the permits we were issuing were 1 to 9, and we found that some of the permits that we were issuing, they were taking a lot more than 9 trips.
To the same site?
Correct.
Well, that's a problem. That-
Calvin gotta sit there and.
I don't have a problem with the 1 to 9 trips, but it's our business to make sure it's no more than 9. And if it's more than 9, then they should have to pull a bigger permit instead of penalizing the 1 to 9. I don't, I could go along with 1 to 9 to this address, and he calls you in another week and make 1 to 9 to another address. But if he makes more than 1 to 9 to the first address, well, then his permit is insufficient. So he can't have another 1 to 9 permit to the same address. He has to go up the scale on the permit basis. Whereas the 1 to 9 for a single fee permit, we only charged him 1 fee.
1 to 9
It was
wasn't
free.
billed at all.
It wasn't billed at
It
all.
was an annual permit, it was not a 10-day permit. This also, we're
They-
changing it to a
10-day
10-day
permit.
Okay, they bought an annual permit for how much?
Nothing.
Nothing.
1 to 9 trips didn't cost anything, and it was an annual permit for 1 year.
Make just those 1 to 9 trips?
Yes, sir.
At that one address?
Correct.
Okay, but then they would call back and want to make another 1 to 9?
I couldn't give you examples on it, but essentially.
More than that.
Yeah, they were doing a lot more than
They
that.
were doing more than 9 to one address?
Yes.
Well, then the permit should change. Whereas the guys who obey by the,
Well, that's based on an honor system, though, and we won't know that unless we'll pull them over and find out they're not using the permitted route, and they get a $500 ticket, and then I would get calls, why are you giving me a $500 ticket when I have a permit? When you dig into these things, this is how it came up. We found out the 1 to 9 is not sufficient. I mean, a lot of people, the majority of them calling the road department were saying, hey, we're 1 to 9, we want the free permit, we don't want to even pay the $100, you know, so it was, okay, so let's narrow this down. And that's where this started.
I
So-
feel like the people that are sitting in this room, the people that you're looking at right here in this community, they're in the community, they know the community, they want the community in the best shape. Like everybody that's in here, buy the appropriate person. Now, I ain't saying that it hadn't happened before. I understand. Out of parish guys, out of state guys, you know, things of that nature, you know, and like I say, and it's basically up to Calvin and his force to monitor that. And I understand you can't hire enough people to monitor. Falling back to where we're penalizing the. Like I say, and we know there's not an easy way about it. But the 1 to 9 tended to work a lot better for what. Buy the appropriate permit, but roads is almost.
Let me ask this, to try to address that issue, Michael, and the audiences, would, if you went back to the 1 to 9, but had, because you can't track everybody's load, and if they have an annual permit, I mean, really, they're gonna do 8 loads in January and then 1 in June, come on. So what about if you had the 1 to 9 permit and it had, more like what's your time frame? 15 days, 20 days? I know there's rain. I know people things can happen, but like what would be a realistic time frame that would help with the 1 to 9 trips, but also help keep some honesty on, the amount of time that you would really be running that many loads? I mean, would that be a practical solution?
Yeah, I mean, if you could do it days, you know, if you give me a month like that to get it in, then weather related and whatnot, you have some delays, they don't always, what we run into a lot of times is they want 3 or 4 or 5 loads of dirt, well then a week later, they want 4 or 5 loads of rock to cover that dirt up, and then, days after that, well, we got a pothole in stock for them, so bring me 1 more load. So.
So changing it to 1 to 9 loads for a 30-day permit would assist? Would help?
Cause most jobs, we're gonna do in 30 days. And we're not gonna do it for,
That makes sense.
y'all might see it differently.
When you're building a house, you
I
have
feel that, cause I got pulled over, and I hauled down Powell Road, and I hauled 2 loads, and I was honest about it, and I hauled 2 more, and then I got a ticket, and it cost me $500. But I did call to get the approval to go down there, but a week later, I got a $500 fine. Oh, I didn't, but my driver did, which I had to pay. Only 4 days later. So that was,
What was the ticket for?
and that wasn't very good. I mean, that.
What was the ticket for?
Over 2 loads.
Over 2?
Yeah, I hauled 2 loads. I called because I needed to haul 2 loads. Well, then the owner of the house over there called, wanted 2 more. And
So-
me being, I was scattered everywhere, so I just called my driver and said, hey, bring 2 more loads. He went down there. I assumed I was covered because I'd already called and got permission, and my driver got a ticket because it was 4 days or 5 days later. And apparently I was supposed to call every day you go down that road if you're hauling. You can't just get a, permit for, it's like only good for 1 day.
I don't know of a permit we issue that's only good for 1 day. The 0 to 9 was, I don't think that was, to my knowledge, it's, to my knowledge, we don't have a 1-day permit or a 3-day permit. This is the first proposal that we've had in our ordinance for a permit that's less than an annual permit.
I told you to call your juror.
So quiet.
Yeah, it's his son-in-law.
That's why you're so quiet over there.
What is the tracking mechanism for these loads here? Say you're not in a situation where they're using the same system, where you've got somebody buying 3 to 149 hauling 500 loads.
The tracking system is an honor system in itself. We can't track.
Yeah, you're gonna be back in the same situation you're
Right.
in now.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't make it more difficult on them or us.
Well,
But
I mean, you've got oil and gas companies who could say they're doing all 150 to 999, when in reality they're hauling 10,000 loads.
I don't know, for the record, I don't know any single gas company that's purchased less than a $500 permit. So that's never been an issue.
But I mean, we got these guys.
I'm telling you that I know of.
$250. We're fixing to haul 3,500 tons of rock tomorrow on it.
I mean, that's my issue, is that you've got an ambiguous tracking system
Plus-
that's
plus-
on a certain amount of numbers, that somebody can come in and say, well, I want 149.
Ambiguity is not good.
Michael, to yours and Mr. Baker's point, if I called Adam and got 9 loads, then I called Mr. Dupree and got 9 loads, and then I called Mr. Howell and got 9 loads, I'm legal by doing that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what have you accomplished? And I don't know the other gentlemen's names, or I'd go down the line and say them. So, I mean, I could get my 50 loads if I wanted them and not pay a dime.
Absolutely.
It's per site, Mike,
if it's the same site though. And are you talking about if you pulled the permit or if they pulled the
No,
permit?
I'm not pulling a permit. If I called Adam and said I need 9 loads of dirt,
Well, then if you called Adam, he'd get a permit for that, and it would be free, and you'd have to call them, another gentleman, he gets a permit. I mean, yeah, you're right. If that's the way you want to game the system, you can game the system that way, but, I mean, or you can buy the $100 permit.
You're still keeping track
I mean,
of the loads on.
it's an honor system.
That's what I'm saying. though. You're not-
It's based on the honor system.
Yes,
We-
you are.
we-
You're making sure they stay on the right roads.
If that's what the jury decides to put in the ordinance,
Say it.
then that's what the jury decides to put in the ordinance, so, I mean,
Put a blanket, you know, some kind of blanket. Yeah. You know, where it's not as, like he's talking about, wait 2 days to get blanket permit. We all know what road not to go down. And don't get your hands slapped on or whatever, you know. Still a honor
But-
system really, but when you actually pay an X amount for a blanket permit, per truck or per company or whatever. So, I mean, you know,
Steve?
roads that y'all want to issue permits. That's right. That's right. We have to go down.
Did you have something, Steve?
The ordinance is very clear and has been for almost 15 years. The party responsible for developing the project shall be the responsible party, parenthetically it says,
Permit holder.
permit holder. Not these guys behind us. I can't think of a single case where they're supposed to pull it unless it's their property and they are the developer of whatever they're taking it to. It was never intended to put the burden on these guys behind us, always the developer of the property. So if Love's would have built on a parish road, Love's would have been responsible for all those trucks. I can't get around that. It's in there, it's been in there, and we just keep issuing permits to individual truckers. It's supposed to be that one place. So if you do it to your house, the second time you call for 1 to 9, it's gonna flag you because it's the same address. And you don't have that 1 to 9 this guy, 1 to 9 this guy, 1 to 9 this guy. It's all you.
so I can do 501A, 501B, and 501C since I have 3.
No, but it's the same address.
Because, no, I have,
It's an individual site.
I had to pay for different permits to get more addresses.
Everything's, well, I guess you can have different sites.
You got a delivery address, that's
But that's not the way
yeah,
it's structured. It says that individual site is where it's supposed to go.
All right, I live at 201
And the
Parker
route
Lane.
changes for every site.
I can't call 4 different contractors to deliver me dirt at 201 Parker Lane. That should be the road department, permit department should catch that we've got multiple contractors applying for a permit, all going to the same address, all deliver the same thing. That's a red flag situation right there that belongs on our shoulders. and
I know,
nobody
but that's
else.
what I'm saying. They're not doing that. We don't have the staff nor the computer system to do that.
Well, to my knowledge, that's not occurring right now. I
I
mean,
think you could set a computer up, if you put in 201 Parker Lane every time, it red flag you.
but to my knowledge, that's not occurring, so you're just borrowing trouble to assume that
I'm
that's
just
going
saying,
to
I'm
occur.
just going on the hypothetical that Mr. Kennington brought up about getting these different contractors to bring to one address. We can put a stop to that just for programming the computer. Anything that comes in, 9 loads to this address, next day, 9 loads to this address. The man back there said he could deliver 9 loads in a day, so he can get 9 loads delivered in a day. The next day, I apply for a permit again, it should red flag it. That's an easy situation to solve, I believe. And basically what we're talking about here to me, there's no need in punishing these small individual contractors. Give them a $500 a year permit, any road in the parish, as long as they get a route to travel. If we catch them off that route, then we fine the heck out of them. Well locations, $10,000 for a permit. You wanna build a well, $10,000.
You're fixing to run over 1,000 trucks in there anyway.
But by that logic, Mr. Parker, you're putting the liability on those guys if they pull the permit versus.
No, they don't have to pull the permit. The landowner or the house builder or whoever that they're working for pulls the permit. These guys don't have to do nothing but haul the dirt, rock, or whatever they haul.
That's the way the ordinance is currently written.
It's not being enforced that way, apparently.
Well, I think it's just been some miscommunication with the haulers and permit officers. Like he's saying, you know, that shouldn't be irrelevant. It's free. Why don't we just go back to 1 to 9 like Mr. Baker? Observe the days of 30 days, 1 to 9. Observe the timely matter for the give the permit, and observed by the rerouting issues. That's important because we got holes forming roads overnight. Truck go down the road, boom. So that's why our permit officers need to be aware of the route. You know, situations like that. It happens. Covers blow out.
We know about how long it's gonna take us to make a run, you know, we know we can haul 9 or 10 loads in a day, we can just tell Calvin, hey, I've got 9 loads, and it's gonna take, I mean, I might get 5 in there today, and I might get, you know, the other 4 in there tomorrow, and just let him know that.
Right, and that falls,
So that falls on that.
and that falls back upon that 30-day deal.
That's where that 30 day comes in at, you got 30 days to haul them.
That 1 to 9.
I mean, it sounds
It
like
might rain for 3 days.
it sounds like the 30-day proposal is a little more palatable for you guys.
Would be for me, cause I may be tired and don't wanna drive.
Calvin, is that workable? I mean, we can do that?
1 to 9.
I mean, do you have anything you would like to add, Calvin? I mean, do you have any suggestions? Because, you know, you and your guys out there in the field, do y'all see something different?
I don't know about 30 days, though.
Okay. 15? Yeah.
I mean, that's up to y'all. You haul 9 loads in there in January, and the same guy calls you back in November. Like, buy the permit in November?
Well, we're talking the free permit.
No.
You'd have to get, it's the free permit.
A free permit.
But you said that it's tied to the same address within a year, ain't that what they said a while ago?
No, during the permit, if you're issuing it a 30-day, it would be tied to the same the address in the same 30-day period.
See, and there again, y'all aren't pulling the permit.
Right.
1 to 9,
The property owner's pulling the permit.
15 days.
And like Steve said earlier, that property owner has come in and pulled a building permit. And we need to be able to tie the building permit to the trucking permit. So all that's taken care of for the property owner at one time. He needs to know, hey, I'm gonna build a house here, but then somebody has to ask the question, how many loads does your builder estimate's gonna be needed in there? And then he has to pull that road permit at the same time he gets his building permit. And then he has the permit number, and he just gives you a copy of the permit with the route on it. Or y'all send it to each other on your cell phone, or ever how Calvin will accept it. I think, will you accept one on a cell phone, Calvin?
Right now, yeah, we doing it.
Yeah, and so we can do it that way. And then for somebody like me who has been waiting on asking Mr. Dupree to bring me some SB2 while we get this figured out, because I've been wondering, do I have to pay an extra $100? I can call and get a 30-day or 15-day permit, and he can bring me the rock. Him or Adam, either one, whoever gives me the best price. So, really, from the way the original ordinance, and Steve explained a lot of the original ordinance, y'all should be the ones asking for the permit number from whoever you're hauling to. Y'all shouldn't be calling, asking for a permit. You should be asking who you're working for, do you have a permit? And what's the number?
And to add to what Greg's saying, when you call and get that permit number, ask them to send you a copy of the permit, because it has the permitted route, and you can have that on your cell phone. You can have a picture of that. The permit officers know that. You don't have to have a piece of paper, okay? Because realistically, we are in a technological age. I mean, have it on your phone, so we'll know, hey, this is the permit.
What if, just for instance, have a 85-year-old widowed woman and her driveway blows out, and it might take, 15 votes. So you expect that woman to call and get a permit? I mean,
Well,
Somebody gonna do that
well,
work. I mean, somebody, she gonna hire somebody.
We're not building a house, we're going in there repairing her driveway.
repair her driveway. So that's not gonna fall under the building permit, because she's not building a house, she's not, she's been there for 60 years. I mean,
well, you
So
think she
you're
doesn't,
building the house, you're doing the
you
work?
don't think she's gonna call and get a permit? Is
doing
that
the
what you're
work?
saying?
I mean, no.
You're doing the work?
Then why don't you do it for
Well,
her?
you probably
Yeah.
need to do it with your
Pro-
permit.
I mean,
It don't
and
stop
listen,
you from
I don't want to tell
getting
you how to do your business, but if you had a situation like that, maybe you could call the road department. Look, this woman needs to get a permit. Here's her information.
Get it for her.
Get it for her, and have her.
I can get permits, I don't have a problem
Right.
getting it, but, the way y'all laying it out now, that we shouldn't have to get it at all, but there's gonna be.
Well, there may be
There's
times.
gonna be,
Can.
well, there's gonna be time. It's just like if I wanted 2-3 loads of rock. Do I wanna call the police jury office and get a permit? Or can I talk Mr. Dupree or Adam or you in to call and getting the permit?
Man, I'm tired of you talking about them
Don't
being
make any
claimed.
sense.
We'll have it there tomorrow.
I'll call for it.
Well, the thing about it is, y'all got to have a permit number.
come down Road A and Road B.
The little old lady doesn't know anything about permit number. Hopefully y'all call and get a permit.
And basically,
Just common sense. If the person doesn't have don't know nothing about a permit,
yeah.
then y'all ain't gonna have to pay for the permit, cause you ain't gonna haul.
All right, Steve?
I know in the past, I can't speak for the present, there had been more than one route shown on a single permit. Because not every vendor comes from the same place. One may come from Monroe, and another from Alexandria, one from East Texas. You can put more than one route on a single permit to the same site. That's what I'm talking about. At least in the past, we did that, because I've seen them with my own eyes. So in terms of them, the man who got dirt on Jesse Latin and wanted to go right around the corner, if it's a reasonable, practical request, to add it to the permit. That's all you gotta do, add it to the permit. And our permit officers should be allowed to do that when it's got common sense in it.
Well, that's
So
what I
anyone
just
getting dirt
said
out
a while
Jesse
ago
Latin
about the
can go
emptying the load.
Make a right turn and go down there. Or right turn on, excuse me, not a fire tower. Yeah.
So if I pull a building permit and hire Madden's, concrete company to bring me concrete,
Tread carefully, Kyle.
I know the last time, I think it was 18 loads of concrete, 18 trucks of concrete, maybe more than that, I don't know. My building permit covers all that those concrete trucks?
Not right now, no, sir.
No, they're talking about modifying it.
Modifying it, yeah, that's the that's an idea to modify our building permit.
So who's pulling a permit today?
For what?
For, what's the name of his company? It's not Martin Marietta, it's Red River.
I mean, it would be for the road permit or the building permit?
No, I'm pulling a building permit to build my own house, but it's pour day. It's time to pour my slab. And I'm ordering 17 concrete trucks. I don't know what they weigh, but I know it's a lot.
I would assume it should be the general contractor on the project would pull the road permit.
Talking about all day.
Well, there is no general contractor.
Well, then it would be you. If
You're the
you're
general contractor.
your own general contractor.
And y'all think, is that happening now, Calvin? They pull their own, right?
But the ordinance is written for the general contractor or the landowner or the site, whoever owns that site, developer, to pull the permit. We can't stop Ready Mix or
No, no, I'm
truckers
just
if they
asking
want
a
to,
question.
But yeah, it's, the ordinance is designed for the general contractor, the site developer, or the homeowner to pull that permit. That hasn't changed. That's been the same.
So if Red River Ready Mix is pulling their own permits, as Calvin says, they signed a permit. I didn't sign it.
Correct.
Sir?
I said, that's not the way it's supposed to be issued according to the ordinance that's been in place for 14 years. I'd say maybe we need to have a
Well, I mean,
meeting with the road department and get things cleared up.
Well, I mean, I built several, and I've never signed anything saying I'm responsible for road damage if I damage it. Matter of fact, usually they just want my credit card number for the permit fee.
The jury that preceded y'all fully understood that we don't want to put the burden of repairing roads on the small entities.
Right.
The small people. And as much as possible, that's what this ordinance tried to do, was put the burden where the burden needed to be. General contractors, oil and gas industry, logging people, that's where they tried to put the burden to help on our roads, not on mom and pop.
Is there a way that you can do permitting and differentiate between residential and commercial? Where the permits are different.
In the software? Can we do that in the
Well,
software?
in the ordinance, you have to put it in the ordinance first. You know, whereas if somebody's building something new, well, that needs to stay under the same permit. But if somebody wants 3 or 4 loads of dirt or 3 loads of gravel to their residential property, is there a way to change the ordinance?
Absolutely, you can do it. You can write that ordinance however you want. You can do that.
Have it listed that way. That if a residential person wants 2 loads or whatever, the permitting process is just bring me the dirt.
Right. Yeah, you can do that. We could do that.
What do we need to do in our, can we in the meeting on Monday rescind the ordinance written in May and go back to the preceding ordinance for the time being until we can straighten this out?
Yes, I would recommend only rescinding ordinance number 6 that was adopted, because there were several of them we changed in May, the one being the bond amount on some of those. You could.
So it goes back to the 1 to 9 loads like we were, and we operate that way until we can put something on paper, invite these gentlemen back in here to look at what we have come up with before we pass a new ordinance.
Sure.
None of the other 5 had to do with this, right?
The only other one was ordinance 4, and it had the language that spelled out the 10-day permit. That was in there as well, so.
So if he wants to go back to the way it was, you need to
You,
revoke.
no. That was in the proposal that we put, that brought us to the workshop. If you just rescind number 6, like I said.
Right.
It would only be that
that
fee
item.
structure. I mean, the ordinance 4 was not changed to add that 10-day permit language. Ordinance 4 was changed to make sure, to ensure, at that time, the modification was to ensure that the generator of the permit was liable for that permit, along with it was a dual liability issue. The generator or the trucking companies that we could not go after, that was why we had Charlie Adams give us feedback on, you know, how are we gonna pursue these? If an oil and gas company leaves and we only have the trucking company, and it's implied in there, we need to make sure the liability is on the trucking company and the oil and gas company, or the generator of the permit, the site owner, if the site owner is no longer here. I believe that was in number 4, but it was just I think we just ended up clearing up one sentence or something. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it was.
Monday, we put it back the way it was before May.
Yes, sir. You would only have to.
Can operate in the time being the way we done for 14 years, and we can come up with some better piece of paper, invite them back to look at it,
Before
and pass
Sure.
something new.
No, we can rescind it and go back to the prior one.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye. We'll adjourn. Well, it needed to be out there. It needed to be out there.